Hello folks, I'm back again. I was only talking to you a few minutes ago, so I'm kind of like rolling one clip after the other. But actually what I want to do is you'd think that being a potter, I've got the kitchen, if you were to go downstairs, would be marvellously arrayed with all kinds of wonderful pots that I have made. But I have to admit that that's not actually the case. That I have surprisingly few pots that I've made in our own kitchen here. And so, of course that's not... It's fairly typical, isn't it? It's... Yeah, when I used to live in Spain, we used to have a saying that said, "In casa de herrero, cuchillo de palo," which means, in the blacksmith's house, the knives that people use are made of wood. Maybe you're like that as well. I don't know, but anyway, I've been using this dish actually for eating out of for quite a lot of my meals, I was originally it was made as a flan dish with lugs, you see. But you know what? I actually really like eating out of it. My meals, a bit like a plate. I know it's not a plate, but it's rather nice because it's got sides, you see. So when you're eating with a fork, if you can imagine this is a fork, if you're eating with a fork, you see, you've got something to scoop the food against. If you're... What I've noticed about people over here in America is that people don't use knives and forks. Well, if they do use a knife, first of all people cut up their food, and then they put the knife down, and then they pick up their fork with their right hand and start eating their cut up food. Well, I wasn't brought up to eat like that. I was brought up to eat with a knife and a fork and cut my food as I go and eat it, and use the knife, the fork or the knife to help the food onto the fork and eat it, etc. Anyway, I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just an observation of the different ways that we do things, But I was just thinking that this flan dish, which has a side to it, is ideal if you're a fork eater. Maybe I'm becoming a fork eater. But anyway, with a fork, you see, you can scoop the food to the side, and you've got the side of the bowl, the side of the flan dish here, or the plate, whatever you want to call it. You've got that there, you see, to push the food against, and that acts. It's very useful, that, you see, and then into your mouth. And I kind of like it. It's got these little friendly lugs. That's how I would describe this little dish, as a friendly dish. It's a friendly dish for a friendly meal. And I don't know. I'm getting back now to trying to do some making here in the studio. I haven't made a pot for over a month, so maybe I've forgotten altogether how to do it. I don't know. But anyway, I thought I'd start out with making some of these friendly little pots, you see. So anyway, this is just a little short story there, just to... So I'm looking here. I've actually made a note here on my cards. I keep these cards, you see, for different things that I make, that I repeated items. I write down with a little sketch the item, how much they weigh, and the width and the height, and any other little comments, you see, that need to be made note of, because I'm a forgetful fellow, you see, because later on when I come back, a couple of weeks later or a month later or 3 months later to make that item again, I've forgotten what the weights and measurements were, you see. So you have to write things down. You have to. It's a bit like as a potter, we have glazes, and if you don't write on the outside of your glaze bucket what the glaze is, even if you're absolutely 100% clear what it is when you're using the glaze, you don't write it on the side of the bucket or put a label. Come back in 6 months' time or 3 months' time. Can you remember what that glaze was? If you can, you're better than I. I can't always remember, you know. And some glazes are obvious, aren't they? Just by the colour. But a lot of glazes, they look very much the same, don't they? And then you think, goodness gracious me. You know, and that's a real pity, isn't it? Because if you don't know what a glaze is, you might as well throw the whole bucket away. Because are you going to risk it? Risk putting a glaze, you know? Sometimes it doesn't matter, but you know. Anyway, so write things down, take notes. So anyway, I'm going to make this little flan dish. I've got some clay here actually. But you know what? The first thing I'm going to have to do before I even start it is I'm going to have to throw a pad for a bat, because this wheel does not have bat pins. Ho ho ho. Well, there you go. Does not have bat pins. So I'm going to have to throw on a bat, but I'm going to have to first throw a pad, you see, for the bat. So, okay, so we're going to, let's just bring the camera in a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. I mean, most people these days, you see, I know, don't really use this method. But, ooh, that's a bit cold, that water. So I'm going to have to take some of my warm water over here, behind us here, and scoop out a bit of the, scoop out some hot water. So yeah, so what we're going to do is, I'm just going to take a lump of clay. This clay is not as soft as I would like it. I'm going to flatten it, you see. I'm going to flatten it and make it into a pad for this bat to sit on. Ha, ha, ha. I think we've got an air bubble in it. When I did my training with my father at Lower Down Pottery, none of the wheels had bat pins, not one. So if you were going to throw something on a bat, you had to do this. You had to make a bat pad. I kind of make it very slightly higher at the side than in the middle. Just a little bit. Okay. And we then this This is just, I do this just to, it helps to release the bat. So you're going to tap center the bat, okay? You're also going to check to make sure the bat isn't wobbling up and down. I need something to wipe my hands. If you touch your finger with it going around, you should feel it touching your finger all the time. And that way you'll know that the bat is lying dead flat there, you see? Okay? So now then that should if the bat itself is not 100% centered and it's just you know, I'm going to try and center it. It's a little bit off there, but he's stuck now pretty good, you see. It doesn't actually matter if the bat is not completely on center. It's more important that the bat is flat down on the wheel head, because it's not the bat that you're going to be centering, it's the clay on the bat. You can then get the clay on center even if the bat is wobbling around, you know, it is going out as true. But you don't want it out of true, you want it to lie flat. Okay, so just a few thoughts there about just getting set up here, ready to throw the friendly flan. Showing you there just, if you need to, how to throw a bat pad in preparation for a bat, so you can do some of these flatter shapes, because some of these flatter shapes actually you're better off throwing them on a bat, otherwise you're going to deform them if you try and lift them off, aren't you? Hey, visit my website simonleachpottery.com, check that out, and yeah, we're going to have some workshops there coming up, so look out for them. Just got to decide on the dates and mark them down, and away we go. Okay, hey, keep practicing. See you soon.